name is Wayne Buccholtz. I'm a lead educator here at the National Mississippi River Museum, and today we're here at what we call the Backwater Marsh Aquarium. There are different names for it, kind of depending on where you're from. So it could be a wetland, which is what I usually call it, bogs, swamps. It could even be the Everglades down in Florida. But they all serve really the same three purposes. They're supposed to help control flooding, and I say supposed to. Across the nation, some 85% of our wetlands are gone. We've drained them for farmland, to build a city. Where we're at here, before the building was even here, this was a wetland. So this was even filled in here down where we're at. But the water would drain into that once we had an event, whether it's a rain or snow melting this time of year in the spring. It would go into the wetland system and before it went into the river or a lake. But again, a lot of them are lost. The second purpose that they have is to help clean up the water. And so I'm talking about sediment that might be coming off due to erosion, and also any nutrients, any chemicals that are coming from the land naturally from our forests and prairies. But because our wetlands are basically gone, and because we've changed the land. Iowa, for example, was 90-some% prairie, and the rest was forested areas. Our land is in Iowa it's the most drastically changed state. Instead of 90-some% prairie, we're 90% towns, roads, and so forth. So we have a tremendous runoff and a high sediment load coming off. Plus, we're putting on different chemicals like herbicides and pesticides, which the wetland isn't designed to take those out. And the third thing that it does is it serves as a place, as a sanctuary. Either animals go in there to hide so they don't get eaten, or they go in there to look for food. But also in the spring, it's a very valuable area for all animals to go in and have their young. Particularly, a lot of the fish will go in there and lay eggs or have live births. Frogs, other amphibians will lay their eggs. Even some of the mammals or even birds like geese, ducks, and so forth will have their nests or have their young back in there just to hide them amongst the vegetation. They're adjacent to a river or a lake or any body of water. So any river, the Mississippi River would have had them all the way up and down on both sides of the river. Smaller rivers will have them. Even little streams may have a small wetland. A lake will basically have a wetland really all the way around it, or anywhere you're having water coming in. It isn't just on a little stream. It's even where you have runoff coming from a hillside. The wetland might only be 12 feet wide, but you should be able to find those in conjunction with any type of water system. So right behind me is what is called a Blandings turtle, right, looking away from us right now, but they are found out on the Mississippi River and actually found pretty much to the south of us and all the way up into Canada, but they are considered federally endangered. So we're lucky enough to have one here. To see one out in the wild is very limited, and they find marshes their happy place, a place where they can go to live, have their young, and so forth. So a turtle to keep your eyes out for. It is considered a semi-aquatic land turtle, so it does spend a lot of its time in the water, but equally as much on land. You look at the spots, kind of the characteristics on the shell, you can almost tell individual species from one another if you are looking at the patterns. So right behind me is a pair of wood ducks. The male is the brighter colored one on the right, and then the female, she's a little bit drabber colored because she's the one that's going to be sitting on the eggs and taking care of the brood that she has out. But they're a species that at one time were on the verge of being, I guess, endangered, maybe being extinct. Early on, when a lot of people were burning wood, we were cutting down their homes. They are a nesting cavity bird. They rely on maybe a hole in the tree that where a limb broke off and then it rotted out. They're not able to make their own holes, but they will lay their eggs anywhere from about 6 feet up to 40 feet up in a tree. And once the little ones hatch out, they then need to jump out. If they don't jump out, the hen will go up and actually push them out just to keep their broods together. And what's interesting is wood ducks will not only lay eggs if they can't find a good suitable nesting cavity, they'll go lay them in the cavity of another wood duck. And so that particular wood duck may have 20-some little ones to take care of, but they'll also merge after a while. So you may see 2 or 3 clutches together. But again, they were on the verge of being endangered, maybe extinct because of the loss of trees. And what really helped that is the idea of putting up birdhouses out in the wetlands. And they even discovered that they could put 2, 3, 4 houses on the same pole and they would all be used. And that really brought them back. So today they're just as common out there as mallards that everybody sees around with the green head. They're native to particularly the Midwest, some of the southern states, but then they will migrate way up north. Basically anywhere there are trees, they can nest up to 2 miles away from a water source. Once they're hatched, that's the first place they go is water because that's where they're protected. So there in the marsh here, we have well over 2 dozen species of fish in here, anywhere from bluegill, there's red-eared sunfish, crappies, there's different kind of bass, one that's called a dogfish, sometimes called a bowfin. So these are all fish that would be found in a wetland. They'd also be found out in the river itself, but they find a wetland as kind of a sanctuary where they can go hide again during different times of the year. But there are times, especially during the summertime, they're going to have to move out of it because the wetlands are not always necessarily full or very deep. It all depends on what we have for rainfall, and it also depends on what we have for snow melt in the spring. In the spring and fall, that's when we want our wetlands high, and so that's when you're going to find the bulk of a lot of the fish going into it. So 2 of them that are in here, the one that's really unique is the dogfish, also called a bowfin. I always got to kind of kid about it because there's also catfish, so we got to have dogs. But it's just a unique fish. They can grow about 2 foot in length or so, and just have the top fin runs the entire length of their body. So just a fish that's a little bit different and unusual. The other one that we have in here that a lot of people like to look at is the northern pike. They can get well over 36 inches, or I've seen some that up around 40 inches. It's a predator fish, and so he's in here because he's a little bit smaller, but just one that a lot of people find fascinating because you don't get to see those on a regular basis. A lot of people fish for them, but you don't always get one. So just a neat fish. He's usually hanging out over towards the top over there, and just a neat one to look at. So this is a small example of what a backwater marsh might look like. So when you come here, take a look at and try and find all the species that are in here. We've got some cards over here so you can help identify them, look for all the different turtles, and then next time maybe when you're outside, you can go visit a wetland and try to find some of the same species.